Hello everyone. Do you believe a little weak man can suddenly have muscular body in martial arts? When in prison, even can be a leader. What had him changed? Not making you curious anymore. Let's watch a movie together with me. The movie, Big Stan. Stan was an unpaid real estate agent. He leaned on his smart mouth to turn customers around. Because of that, he was accused to court. Eventually he was sentenced to 3 years in prison, but the money he spent to hire a lawyer was not in vain. Stan was postponed from serving his sentence for 6 months. Thinking about his future life, he immediately went to the restaurant to eat a full meal with his wife. Indeed, eating is the best way to relieve pressure. While sitting at the bar, he happened to learn about the situation in prison from a man with tattooed arms. He looked pitifully at Stan and said, "The jailers didn't manage anything. The prisoners could do whatever they wanted. They liked little ones like Stan. If he went there, he would definitely be raped." These words frightened Stan. Stan didn't want to wait and die. Also didn't want to be raped. He had to prepare well for these 6 months. He started a plan to exercise health. Stan even signed up for a taekwondo class. But a few months had passed. You couldn't even beat a kid. Stan scoffed angrily at the teacher that he couldn't teach. So he got kicked out of there. Also was hit hard. Stan stood up dizzily returning home. Then he saw a man named Master. He assumed that Stan could not learn martial arts. But when he saw him break the brick wall, then Stan knew he was a master. He wanted to accept him as his coach. He took him home. Stan happily told his wife to keep him at home. It's no use preaching to a hungry man. Protein-rich foods blend together. Occasionally add a few scorpions as a side dish. So after he went to prison, would find that rice there is delicious. Then he learned to carry the fire on his belly, to hang in the air for practice chest muscle, to stand still carrying a wooden barrel. If not carefully, Stan's treasure will be gone. His wife could not take it anymore. The whole day watching her husband suffer, and still needed to deal with a pile of cigarettes. So she took her suitcase and went away in the night. After Stan's wife left, the master began to officially coach Stan. He was finally taught the genres of fighting skills. During the training process he suffered a lot, but over time, Stan also got thick muscles. Hard work has finally paid off. Practicing for several months made him stronger. He was ready for life in prison. But at the full health check, a policeman shouted, life in prison was what he imagined. Here violence was paramount. Stan asked his roommate who was the strongest here. He didn't want to hide. He needed to find a suitable stepping stone. That was why this poor black man immediately became Stan's target. His plan was extremely successful. After dealing with the black man's juniors, no one dared to touch Stan. One day the jailer called him to come, but when he got there, the cigars and good wine were all there. There was nothing like calling him over to ask questions. It turned out that the jailer had been wanting the prison's land long ago. He wanted to build this into a luxury villa. So he wanted help from Stan. He promised that if he succeeded, he would be exempted from being in prison for 2 years. The condition was so good, Stan immediately agreed. At the same time, he felt the security situation here was too bad. Stan began to reorganize the rules here. The first was to throw away all the violent video games and movies, making them watch healthy entertainment, to make life happier. Stan told them to dance and dance with him. The most chaotic prison in America now became happily sociable. In that time, Stan also did exercises with his wife when she visited him in prison. His life was quite good, but this also angered the jailer. He had intended to take advantage of the supervisor being out, and the rebellious prisoners to shoot to death a few men. Then he would have an excuse to take the whole land. But now the prison was so peaceful. How could his plan go smoothly? He called Stan over again. Said what if the plan didn't work out? Then his men would crush his head. Of course, Stan wouldn't be afraid of such bullshit threats. But he still wanted to be reunited with his wife soon. So he had to let the prison return to its original state. Without Stan's control, a crowd of prisoners began to fight with each other. This made the jailer extremely satisfied. The members of the supervisory union finally arrived. The prisoner actively distributed weapons to prisoners. At this point, Stan went to see the amnesty department. He would be released from prison soon. But he thought again and decided to prevent the jailer's purpose. He didn't want his fellow inmates to die. But Stan was stopped by the jailer's men. This person was also the first student of the master. But Stan was not easy to be beaten either. When he was beaten and fell, he decided to use the technique that he liked the most. Struggling for a while, Stan won in the end, but when he arrived, he saw people of both sides began to dispute. When the jailer was about to shoot, then Stan's roommate turned on the Mexican song. As the music played, the atmosphere immediately changed. The lineup of prisoners began to dance. The members of the supervisory union also swayed. The jailer's plan failed. He took a gun and shot all over the place. When he was about to kill Stan, his wife and master came to help. The war was over, but Stan was still released from prison 3 years later. During that time, all the inmates learned kung fu. The day he was released from prison, Stan's wife, daughter and master came to pick him up. He was still at Stan's house at this point, because his wife was also his student for 3 years. Stan was released from prison and started a new life, happily with his little family. The movie ends here. See you next time.